Hey, it's Liz, and today I'm here with Rob Barron, who is running for Des Moines City Council in Ward 1. Rob, thanks for being here.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
You have a pretty extensive resume. You are the executive director of the Seed Coalition, founder of the Latino Political Network. You've been on the school board. You've worked for Tom Harkin, Next Gen Climate, and Grandview University. What has called you to run for city council?
We had a consultant once come into the school board, and he said a bunch of stuff I didn't agree with, but he said one of the most profound things, which is your school board member's job is to represent and channel the vision and the values of their community into policy. Channeling that vision and values of the community into policy is also what the city council is supposed to do. But I don't get the vision side from this council. They show up and they're very good at answering calls and showing up and going to places, but I don't get them telling me this is where we're going 20 years from now. And my kids are 7 and 12. Like, I want to be thinking about the city that they're going to inherit. I just don't hear that from my council. I think we're overdue for some new voices then to shake things up there.
A lot of people don't seem to know what the city council does. And I think that's an issue. You want to see that your government is actually making change in your life. Let's talk about the role of city council and what they actually do and what they can do.
You know, nuts and bolts wise, the job is to manage your tax dollars that people in the city spend or send into us. And so we pay for police and fire, we pay for roads to be improved, affordable housing, projects like that. Our council's largely been a council that's been very comfortable focusing on business development in downtown. It's all well and good. They're missing the big part of this, which is, I think, a council member's job is the well-being of their community. The individuals, their quality of life. I want to be a quality of life council member. I want to be talking about things like childcare and affordable housing, homelessness, the stuff that really actually impacts people's lives on a daily basis in places where we can make an impact. It may not be that impact where we get to, council members like to show up and cut a ribbon everywhere.
Great photo ops.
Oh man,
yeah.
I'm not there for that. I want to do the little things that are going to make somebody's lives better and ultimately are going to give people reason to stay in Des Moines long term.
Which is important. You see Iowa is experiencing brain drain. Young people are leaving the state of Iowa. It is important at the city level to make efforts to retain people and to grow the community. So I appreciate you calling that out. You've also said that because of your experiences, you believe that government can give hope to people. Hope is something that's on short supply these days. Tell me more about how your experiences have given you hope in the government and how you think that can be passed on.
So you rattled off all the things that I've done in my life thus far. And I think the important thing to know is I've been welcomed in every step of the way. You know, I'm a Latino kid in Des Moines. His dad was a cop, mom was a librarian. Very little was handed to me from people of authority. I had a great home to grow up in. I had parents that looked out for me. But, you know, when it came time, I had to figure out how to get things done. I got that first job out of college was with Tom Harkin. Best first job anybody could ever have, in part because he was just as good of a person to work for as he was a legend in terms of everything he's been able to accomplish. And so, of course, I wanted to stay engaged. And I ended up working for him for 13 years until he retired.
Wow.
And then I get elected to the school board, and serving on the school board, people would say, oh, that's a thankless job. No, it's not. I loved it. I absolutely adored it. You go in there, you get to solve problems and make people's lives better, give people hope, like, you know, figure out how we can make things work in a way that's really meaningful. And doing it and being the first Latino that had ever been elected to that role, and then seeing what that meant for my community again. And it's like, every step of the way, I've been welcomed in. And so it's my obligation, I feel like, to be that person for everyone else. How you show up is really how you can start giving people hope. And then it's the things you do when you get in there. Are you going to follow up on the promises you make? Are you going to talk to everybody, not just the ones that look like you or, you know, you're comfortable with, but you're going to go everywhere and talk to everybody? And that's the campaign I'm trying to run right now.
You're out knocking doors, even in the heat.
I love it.
How is door knocking? What are the conversations like when you're out?
It's really interesting, right? Because you're at, you know, it's like, I'm running for city council. Great. I just glass over kind of. It's like, I didn't wake up this morning thinking I'd be talking about city politics with somebody. And so then we'll talk for a little bit, explain to them kind of some of the things I want to do. And then I'll ask them, how long have you lived in the neighborhood? And then they'll get going. I mean, I'll have 20-minute conversations with people at their door. The cool thing about that is, yeah, I'm sure I'm trying to win their vote, right? But I'm also, this is prep work. I'm running for a job for the next 4 years. If I'm going to do this right, if I'm going to channel the vision and the values of this community, I have to actively be in conversation with them, because it's a nonpartisan election. I knock on Democratic doors, I knock on Republican doors, I knock on independent doors. I talk to everybody from, the guy who says, yeah, I love Donald Trump. It's like, okay, well, let's have a conversation then. This is just a job where you just have to sort through all these conflicting experiences and perspectives and be able to make policy out of them. I'm good with that.
Some of the ideas, or more so a vision that you have for Des Moines, includes things that I think everyone can get behind. Childcare needs to see improvement.
Yeah.
Mental health is a huge issue that isn't being aptly addressed by our state government or federal government. Gun violence, affordable housing, ending homelessness, food deserts, and public transit. Let's start with childcare. It's very inaccessible and expensive. We haven't really seen our city government say anything about it.
No, I like to tell people I feel like our city council believes their job description starts at age 18. You don't hear them talking about families and kids very much. They kind of feel like that's the school district's responsibility. But we put a lot on our public schools and continually underfund them. It is our responsibility as city government to be able to speak to the needs of families. And childcare is one that I know. So we have a 7-year-old and a 12-year-old. My wife and I both work full-time jobs. We have to figure out how we make it work. And one of the things that I've done last several years is be involved with a lot of organizations that are focused on childcare access and affordability. The problem isn't necessarily the physical space in the rooms for childcare. It's we can't hire people. Why can't we hire people? Because starting salary is less than it's going to be if you went to work at McDonald's. Well, can we charge more for it? No, because parents are paying basically the cost of college tuition to send their 1-year-old to childcare. The system is broken because nobody's ever really meaningfully thought of a system. Usually when you get this far in the conversation, your city council is going to say, yeah, but that's a national problem. Somebody's got to fix that. But it's like gun violence. Yes, it's a national problem, but if they're not going to fix it at the national level, why don't we try and fix it here? And it can be our competitive advantage as a city. I have ideas on how we can make the system more affordable with just a small influx of public dollars. But more than anything, I just want to start the conversation.
Right.
You said it. Like, this is not a council that's going to have this conversation unless we send the right people up there to represent us.
Looking specifically at Des Moines and how city council has led the city for the past 2, 5, 10 years, where are the shortcomings?
The shortcomings come back to aspiration. I don't think our council has really gone through the process of coming up with what vision that's informed by us. And I'm starting that. This campaign is the first step in that process. But I want them to be aspirational about where we're going to go. I don't want to just keep playing small ball and trying to do things that we think are not going to tick off the state legislature and the governor. I want to move the needle in people's lives. That should be our responsibility. You asked me, like, you think government can give people hope? How does that happen? It happens when we speak to the problems that people have right now. And don't get beyond saying, yeah, but we probably can't do that because of X, Y, and Z. And the reality is the longer that folks are up there in any elected office, the more likely they are to be able to identify the barriers to things happening. That's why you need new voices in there. Because they're going to ask that question, yeah, but why not? Why don't we do that differently? Why don't we reallocate some of these funds away from some of this corporate subsidies, that we're giving to some of these businesses and say, well, wait a minute, why don't we support the workforce by making childcare more affordable? That is the gap here in a nutshell in this city. And we just very rarely have opportunities to change it. Like, this is an open seat. This is really, other than like a special election last year, this is really the only open seat that we've had at the city council level in about 8 years. 8 years. Just to have like a clean slate and have some new voices in there.
And have diverse voices in there. I know we talked about kind of the age of the council. You would be the first Latino council person in the city of Des Moines.
Yeah.
People don't realize how diverse Des Moines truly is and how diverse our city council needs to be to accurately reflect what our community wants. Looking at a couple of headlines that have come out of the city council over the past couple of years, the Des Moines Office of Sustainability was ended in January of 2025. There's obviously a desire and a need to take care of our environment and to think more sustainably for our future. And that was just eliminated.
Yeah. And so you would think, well, wait a minute, we're in a fairly progressive town. We have council members who, I think, even though it's a nonpartisan office, are nominally Democrat. Why don't they support sustainability? So the city manager on a Friday afternoon in the dark of night basically fires the 2 people that run that sustainability office. And what did the council do? They sat on their hands. The majority of them did nothing, really, and have just kind of tried to patch and fill and kind of cover their butts later on. And the crazy thing about this is that aspirational thing I was just talking about. Like, I want climate resilient community. I want to be focused on adaptability, but we have to be able to fund the people that are going to do that work if it's going to matter. And the reality is that was an inconvenient office. It was an inconvenient office because they were willing to say things that were going to tick off Mid-American and some of the utility companies. At the end of the day, we know who this council is more comfortable advocating for, and that's what happened to that office. We can restore it. We can get a majority on that council that can come back and direct the city manager to resurrect that office. And that's going to be something I'll be advocating for when I get up there.
Another headline that came out of the Des Moines City Council news headlines was the criminalization and the fining of folks experiencing homelessness in Des Moines. I can't remember who exactly stood up against it or stood for it on the council, but ultimately you see a population of vulnerable people facing harsher penalties for not having a house, not having accessible housing, the cost of living issue. There's the affordability crisis, but there's also the shortage of affordable housing in Des Moines.
Let's start with what the council did last summer. There's two problems with what they did. And before I get into them, let's just all accept homelessness is one of those national problems, right? And it requires local solutions. Those local solutions are probably going to take us 10 years to really do and make the impact that they need to make. However, what you don't lead by doing is by targeting folks at their lowest with impoverishment and the threat of criminal prosecution. Because all you're doing then, you're not trying to solve the problem. You're just trying to get people out of vision. And there are people that came up at the council table and said that morning that they had that vote that said, I'm embarrassed to see homeless people downtown.
Oh, what an inconvenience.
But the other thing, if we're going to go good government for a second here, that they said, we're going to do this, but we're not going to tell anybody we're going to do it until Thursday morning before a special Monday morning meeting. And we're going to try and get 6 out of 7 votes from the council so that we can waive all 3 readings, so it doesn't have to come back up 3 times. We don't have to try and defend this 3 times. They couldn't get it. They only got the 5 votes, but they just tried to hide it. And again, that's another thing you get when people have been there for too long. They know how to play all the games to do the thing they know is going to be politically unpopular. That was based off of a Supreme Court decision by a majority Republican court. So let's talk about how we fix it. The first thing that I talk to people about is homelessness is a spectrum. It's not just the people that you might see when you're riding on the bike trails or downtown. It's the people that are couch hopping because they don't have a place to live. And so there's different solutions for everyone along that spectrum. For the most chronically homeless, that we're going to be the most visible, the reality is we need more housing with supportive services. And we've made some steps in the right direction. The council even approved the Joppa Tiny Home Village, which would be 50 tiny homes targeting those chronically homeless. So it's those types of projects that are going to be really important. The thing that's going to matter the most is decisions we're going to make on where and how we build housing over the next 4, 8, 10 years in the city. Because the thing that's underneath all of this, our population is not growing in Des Moines. The metro area's population is booming. Des Moines' population is not growing. We're losing families, we're losing people. Where, how, and what we build is going to be incredibly important.
And someone needs to be forward thinking on that.
Yes.
I appreciate you being forward thinking on that.
With an ounce of compassion.
With an ounce of compassion.
I've seen it especially in the immigrant community. People in power in this community are more willing to just say nothing for fear of retribution from the governor or from the legislature. And I'm sorry, but Kim Reynolds is not one of my constituents. So I'm going to advocate on the things that I hear you all telling me. I'll figure it out. People you select for these roles are not forcibly standing up and saying things, then we're never going to get a solution. It's just about saying, hey, listen, this is a problem for us. We want to come to the table. Will you come meet us halfway and we can figure some things out?
I do appreciate you meeting with me today. It's a beautiful afternoon here in Beaverdale. Let's talk about how people can support you or find you online or donate or volunteer.
Sure. It's pretty simple. My website is robxbarron.com. Go there. You can sign up to volunteer, request a sign, make a donation. We'll be at all the parades this fall. We're out knocking doors. We need help. I go out every single day and try and push this a little closer to the finish line, but I need help. If you like knocking doors, we got a space for you. If you don't, we got space for you. This is a grassroots campaign. We're going to be doing all of the things. Just reach out to me and I'll be more than happy. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, find me there. We'll be happy to work with you because ultimately I want folks to be hopeful about the government that they have. And part of that is how I run this campaign.
And Election Day is November 4th. There is information on your website too, as far as where you can vote and
Yes.
additional information there. So robxbarron.com. Thank you so much for meeting with me.
Thank you so much, Liz. This is a pleasure.